Hey there, everybody. Welcome back with the Purplatypus is the name, and welcome to Vampire Survivors Tier List Maker yet again. I totally forgot to put this link in the description of the last video, but it will be in the description for this video, and if I'm smart, I will go update the previous tier list we did of all the weapons with this as well. However, I'm not 100% confident that I'll remember that. Let's go ahead and move some of this garbage out of the way, by the way. We're doing the passives today. And this one should overall be a little bit. Oh, I did organize this before, but it I think I lost connection. I reloaded the page or something dumb. Let me just move some of these around really quick. This one should be overall a shorter video, just because there's not as many of these as there are of the other things. I think that looks good. All right, so we're just gonna go in order. Now you're gonna see a bias in here, as with all tier lists from all people ever. You know, there's not as much objective facts when I mean, these are opinions, right? So just keep that in mind. And I'm gonna kind of break the tier list into mentally. There's three kinds of passives essentially. There are offensive passives, there are defensive passives, and then finally there are like miscellaneous passives, things that aren't directly offensive or defensively applicable but still have an effect. We'll go through it here. The first, armor, is a defensive passive. Now if you look at a character, I have the game open up here. Let's see if you can see it. You can see it pretty well. If we start, most characters have 110 HP, right? Almost everybody besides like two of them. So 110 HP. Armor reduces the damage you take by from 1 up to like, what is it, like 5, 7, 8? I think it goes up to level 8. I don't know. Obviously, I don't get it that much. If you take 8 damage from every hit, you're still like, it's just like, it is a lot, but like it only takes like 2 to 3 hits to kill you sometimes from especially some of these big enemies. There are a lot of small enemies later, but if you're completely surrounded by small enemies, I don't know if armor is going to save you. Now, my friend did say he had an insanely strong armor defensive run with like the new garlic and stuff, but I personally am not convinced on it. I'm not going to put it D tier. I don't think it's like trash, but I do think it is C tier. It's, you know what's funny is the weapon list, I kind of had an idea where things were going to go before I started. This one, I'm kind of unsure until we actually get to it. Also, I knew I was going to make some enemies when I said I think holy water is better than garlic. All right, I know it's not even called holy water, it's called Santa water, is better than garlic, but you know, you got to go with what's in your heart. Attract orb, this is going to be the first one that I would consider miscellaneous. It's not really defense, it doesn't help you survive longer directly, and it doesn't help you kill things faster directly, but it does kind of support everything you're doing in this game. Now, I think I overrate this. With the passives, there's kind of a thing you got to keep in mind. Like, you have a limited amount of slots, right? And you need to hit a certain power level in order to beat the end of the game. So there are some things that don't necessarily increase your power level, but help you power up faster, but they don't actually increase the end cap of how strong you can get. I think Attract Orb is almost that category, but not quite. I think Attract Orb does help you level up faster because you're just collecting a lot more experience for the most part. But it does kind of help you have a slightly higher than normal power cap, as when things get really crazy and you can't move around that much, it'll still allow you to break like chandeliers and stuff and get those items out of it. It allows you to get HP from further away without having to get yourself killed. It's kind of like a defensive perk. I think it's good. I'm actually going to put it, I'm going to put an A tier right now. We might move it down to B. We'll kind of see how things are going. This used to be like something I took every time, and as I've played more, I've started taking it a little bit less. I love having it, but I don't know if it helps me win runs as much as it just helps me enjoy the early game of the runs more. Duplicator, this will be the first of our offensive ones. I don't think anyone's going to be confused here. I think Duplicator is S tier, right? It gives you +1 projectiles at level 1. And I think it goes up to level 2 for +2 projectiles. I actually kind of wish it showed the total max level here. But I think it's 2 projectiles. Insane, right? It synergizes with basically everything. It's like the most, it's one of the most expensive in terms of upgrades to get, right? You have to either have a character that's like built around it that has no bonuses until you get to level 20, or one character that always has +1, but like, so you have to have a specific character built around it, or you have to have the meta progression, and the meta progression only gives you 1. So this gives you twice as much as the meta progression does. And the meta progression one is expensive as well, especially if you're brand new to the game. S tier. Spinach. Spinach is 10% damage per level. I'm putting Spinach high A tier. I think it has potential. I think we're going to put it low S tier, actually. I've changed my mind. I think Spinach is S tier. A lot of times with things, especially when you're using things like garlic or the books, the difference between killing something in 1 hit and having to kill it in 2 hits could be a long time. It could be several seconds, you know, which is a long time in terms of this game, where you beat the game in 30 minutes, right? And so being able to kill something, like, things scale pretty fast in this game. So you just want to be able to kill something with your first wave of attacks. If you have to do 2 waves of attacks for every enemy, it's actually just it takes twice as long to kill enemies. And so this can help you get those one-shots. The bosses getting killed faster is nice, but I think it's mostly to get you from 2-shotting enemies to 1-shotting them, is what feels really good about Spinach. And it just, like, it increases your survivability so much. I don't remember what this one's called. This one's called Pumarola, 0.1 HP a second. This is going to be our first D tier. Now, heal regeneration isn't, like, inherently trash. It is kind of good, but I honestly feel like the amount you get from the power-up menu here, the recovery, is just, like, enough. Like, 0.2, it's not good, but it just, the only thing about this that I think is semi-good is that it is good with the new garlic. Now, again, there might be a specific build that I'm not using based around HP regeneration, like this and the whip and whatever we use, new garlic, you know, where you're just recovering HP constantly to make garlic better. But in order to recover HP, unless now this is possible that I don't understand the mechanic of recovering HP, but like new garlic says specifically, does more damage while recovering HP, right? Power increases when recovering HP. Now, logically, I would assume you need to lose HP in order to regain HP. Like, if you're at max HP, is the regain still going on? I think probably not. And you typically don't want to be taking damage in this game because you take a lot very fast. Maybe that's because I don't value the defensive perks that much. Maybe this is changes, but I think this is a D tier. I don't need to talk about it too much. This stone mask gives you extra gold. Easy D tier. Now, of course, if you're just going to grind gold, this becomes an S tier because it's the only thing that does that. But in terms of making your run more powerful to help you win the run, this literally does nothing to help you win the run. This is purely a meta progression. It's like, it's 10% per level. I just have this pulled up that way in case you guys don't believe me. There we go. And just to help me remember in case I forget. Spellbinder. This increases duration. So Spellbinder's in a weird spot for me. It's a weird spot. On one hand, I think it's almost D tier. On another hand, I think it's almost A tier. I think we're gonna stick with the B tier. And so here's the reason. So if we look at a lot of weapons, right? If we look here, ignores duration. First of all, let's just make Spellbinder is duration, right? Ignore duration. Ignore duration. Ignore duration. Ignore duration. Ignore duration. Ignore duration. Ignore duration, right? So what you're getting, ignore duration. Ignore duration. This one doesn't do anything with duration. This one doesn't ignore duration, but it's like over half the weapons get no benefit from Spellbinder right now. But what it does work with is Rune Tracer, which is pretty good. The new bird, which I think is very, very good. I don't think duration on the new bird is inherently that good. And duration on Rune Tracer is good, but I don't think it's like amazing. But the real saving grace is that King Bible. Not only is it best with duration, you need to take Spellbinder to get the Unholy Vespers, which is a never-ending King Bible, which I think is the best weapon in the game. So the best part about Spellbinder is that it lets you get the Unholy Vespers. And it has some synergies with some other good weapons. Like, again, I do like Holy Water, which is another reason why I like Holy Water, because I'm always taking Spellbinder, because I always want this book, you know, unless I'm specifically avoiding it. Then Santa Water is one of the few things that synergizes very well. I think Santa Water is probably the most synergistic thing with increased duration, as this no longer benefits. This might as well say Unholy Vespers ignores duration because it never ends. And so I think this is actually the most powerful synergistic tool to go along with Spellbinder. But Spellbinder typically, I think, kind of sucks. But I'm going to put it B tier. So I think it's potentially low C tier. It's not D tier. I don't think it's like useless. I think it's like reasonable. Might even be high C tier, but we're going to put it B. We're going to kick it up because of how good the Holy Book is. Now this is speed. Speed is A tier. What do I got to say about speed? Not movement speed. Sorry. This is projectile speed. We got this pulled up right here. Increase projectile speed by 10%. So the things it's good with, right? It's pretty good with like Holy Wand. It's like whatever. The things I really like it with is the book. And it's kind of just good with everything, right? Like everything moving faster is just a bit better for you. Like the Rune Tracer gets quite a bit better. I don't think it does garlic. It does affect these, which is actually kind of nice. But the book is really the big thing, because the book actually gets stronger with increased speed because the books rotate faster, and so it hits enemies more. So it's probably the best item. It's probably even stronger than spinach for this book specifically. But then, you know, it's like pretty good with like the Heaven Sword. It just overall, it will help you kill things before they get closer to you. It'll help you keep a slightly larger gap between you and the enemies, which I think is pretty good. I don't think it's like phenomenal, but I do think it is pretty good. I'm kind of talking myself down from it actually, but I think I'm going to keep it low A. And again, I'll move things around if I have to. Movement speed. So on day one, movement speed was S tier for me. It was like clearly the best. Now that we kind of got like, I got power up, right? I got this 5% and I play on hyper mode. I honestly feel like it's like D tier. And I know this is crazy because I think movement speed was, again, S tier for me, but I think it's like the best D tier item. And now there is a, because I just feel like I move fast enough. I never feel like movement speed is the reason I've lost a run, literally ever. But there is a slight, there is a gameplay mechanic that I haven't really played with that much that this might make this better. And that's item drops of the chandeliers. Obviously I break chandeliers and stuff, but if you had the maximum move speed and you could move as fast to the like right or left in like the library as you can, the faster you move, the more item drops the more chandeliers you're gonna find, and the more chandeliers you find, the more items and chickens and, you know, combat focused items that you could save on the floor until you need them are gonna show up. So this actually helps you farm items faster, and potentially helps you gain experience faster by running into enemies faster, especially like you have early in garlic, like you kill all the enemies and keep running forward. Like I think there's some potential here, but in terms of like survivability, I think those are kind of niche. I think they're kind of niche and not necessarily that powerful, that impactful. And I don't feel like the movement speed is needed anymore, honestly. I think it's bad. I don't take it anymore. But, you know, again, there's always that I do think that there is potential for aspects of the gameplay that I haven't experimented with that yet. Chandelier, I'm biased. This is going A. Now, I love Area of Effect. I'm putting this above Attract Orb. This is like basically my favorite item in the game, my favorite passive, because I just like big things, right? This is increases area of attacks. So it kind of synergizes with basically everything. It just makes everything a little bit bigger. It's particularly good with the axe, but again, you need it with the axe anyway. It's very good with things like garlic. It's very good with things like these fire wand. Like it makes the things that anything that pierces or just like doesn't stop when it hits an enemy, it gets very good. Like it makes these swords huge. It makes these fireballs that pierce through all the enemies huge. It makes the book, not bigger, but it makes it like out further from you, kind of like garlic does. And when it's out further, I don't know if it actually, because of, you know, physics, you know, let's say something is spinning, your speed is spinning a certain speed, right? And if you make it further, it could still spin the same speed, but it's actually going, its orbit is slower, even if its individual books are moving the same speed. So I don't know if the way speed works in this game is that the orbit is the same exact speed no matter how far out it is, or if the books are moving a specific speed. So you might actually decrease the book damage as the area gets wider and wider out, but it hasn't really felt like that. So I think that it doesn't decrease the damage, and it just increases the area between you and the enemies, which again is a big one, because if you kill enemies before they get too close to you, you have time to react. As far as the other things, right, it's great with garlic. It's basically good with everything. Like, it's surprisingly really good with lightning ring. Lightning ring does like hit, and it does like an area, but it's kind of hard to tell. But it's like super good with lightning ring. It's very good with the birds. It's very good with holy water. I mean, okay, very good with Santa water is an exaggeration, but it's good with Santa water. It's just good. No matter what weapons you get, it's gonna be good, right? The only time it's not good is like if you're getting pentagram, and why are you doing that other than the meme? And it's not like amazing with knives or holy wand, but it's like still reasonable. It's surprisingly good with whip, actually. Probably one of my favorite items. I don't think it's S tier. I don't think it's like an absolute must take like these two, but I do think it's basically always gonna end up in my build. Hollow Heart. This is going to go straight to the low C tier. Getting higher max HP is better, I think, than recovering HP, because this helps you survive hits better. But and you know, that means when you get I'm usually relying on chickens for my HP anyway, or things like the new garlic. I don't think the new garlic recovers HP, which means I'd have that. But I meant the blood whip. And so I think having higher HP is better. It's probably slightly better than the armor. This is basically a mathematical question here. Which one is better? I don't know which one's mathematically better. I would tend to take this because at least I can get whip. This doesn't have any synergies, so I think that this is better, but I don't think it's very good. Luck. This is what's the thing about luck. This is a tough one because luck is such a good stat, but it also sometimes does nothing. I'm gonna put it low C tier because again of the meta progression. So basically, here's what I'm judging on. I think luck's a good stat, and I do like this item, but you get up to 30% in meta progression, and so I've had 30% on meta progression, and I get plus 100%, if 110%, 100% with X dash. And so I've had the maximum possible luck without this item, like 100 and what 30%, 140% or whatever. And I still got 3 single chests in a row. Now luck affects a lot of things. It seems to affect drop rate of items. It definitely affects, it seems to affect the chests that you get, more likely to get better chests, which is great. It also seems to make it so enemies have a chance to drop red gems as opposed to their normal color, blue or green, or, you know, it seems as a chance to upgrade the gems. That one I feel like I don't know for sure if that's how it works. But also what you get from chandeliers, right? Like X Death or whatever, has like X Dash, he has like, he dropped every fucking chandelier drops a chicken. Like it's actually crazy. So this is pretty good because you drop a lot more items from those things also. But I feel like if you just get the 30% from the meta, that's probably enough. I don't think stacking luck and hoping for good chests is necessarily a good strat, because you're typically, by the end of 30 minutes, you're already going to get to your max power level. And you don't really need this to do that. And the 30% is enough to help you with the HP, I think. So I don't think it's like terrible, but I think it might be better than armor. Nah, I don't know. It's actually kind of questionable. I like it. And I do like Holy Sword. I'm gonna put it above armor because of the Holy Sword synergy. This gives you the whip, the blood whip, which I think is not a very strong. I think it might be the weakest of the evolution weapons, but it is still it's still like pretty good. That definitely puts it above all these things that don't synergize. 7% experience. I'm gonna put that. I think it's the worst. I would take probably both of these over this, but I think gaining 7, yeah, it's got to be worse than this. The only reason it's slightly better than Mask in my mind is because this actually literally gets you to the level cap faster. But unless there's certain levels where you have to, like, that are harder, I don't think this is necessary. Because right now I don't have an issue getting to the power level needed to continue the run. Like, because this doesn't help you in the end game be stronger. It can help you farm money. Like, these are both kind of money farmers, right? You get extra experience, you level up, you get more bags. And it does, so it helps you get to your strongest faster. It's 7% per level, so that's like that's relatively decent. I mean, it sounds low, but it feels like quite a bit when you're using it. But I mean, it just kind of like even on hyper mode, if you're getting like semi good items, like I feel like you just don't need this. If you're purposely trying to meme with, like, I don't know, like you're just like determined to get double bird as your first 2 and level them both up. Maybe you need to, like, you're doing something weak in the early game. Maybe you need this to help you get through it faster. Or maybe there's specific characters and you don't get good drops. Like, this might be good, but typically I would never take this. But it helps you get stronger faster. It just doesn't help you be stronger. And this book, is going boom straight. It might be better than spinach. It's kind of hard. I think spinach is better. It's tough, but this is the book that gives you the weapon reload speed, weapon refresh rate down, right? Weapon cooldown by 8%. Empty tome, which is one of the reasons why Holy Wand is pretty good, because you usually want empty tome anyway. But again, it's one of those things like Spellbinder where it doesn't actually synergize with the completed item because it just never stops. It actually might. It might just fire faster. It's not exactly clear. But empty tone, right? Weapon cooldown 8%. I mean, everything cares about this, right? Cooldown, like, doesn't ignore it, 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 doesn't ignore it. It's, you don't really care about this much because it never ends when you get the book, but still, right? It's good with this. It even works with garlic. I think this might be the secret for me thinking garlic is really good. I think that using a full empty book with cooldown and the cooldown guy going full garlic and holy water, or sorry, Santa water. I'm always going to say that because it looks like holy water. To that it's going to I think that's like the secret to making those really, really good, is that reduced cooldown speed. But right, works good with the birds, works good with this, works good with this, works good with this. Like, I think it literally only doesn't work with nothing. Yeah, like cooldown, even like laurel and pentagram, things that I'm probably not taking. Like, it's good with literally everything. In fact, it might even be the top. It might be better than duplicator. I'll put it above spinach. Spinach also synergizes with everything. These are tough. These top three, I'm not exactly sure which order they go. But that's the order I'm going to stick with. I think these are the best three by far, and they're probably going to make it into every run. And then I'm usually going to end up taking these two. So there's 5 of my 6, right? And so then I usually end up taking these. I usually end up taking these right here, and I usually skip this. But, you know, sometimes you have to take something you don't want. And typically when I'm looking at these are the things I'm not taking. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it. Purplatypus is Purplatypus. Let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what you think about my list. I think that this one is significantly less controversial than probably my weapons one. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everyone loves movement speed. Maybe everyone loves, you know... So here's the thing. Like, people will be like, they come in and they leave a comment. They're like, no, you're dumb because I had this one build where I had armor this and this and it was insanely broken. I'm like, yeah, maybe, like, I'm not saying that a very specific build can't make these things work super, super well. Like, oh, if you have exactly these 4 weapons, or, you know, 4 to 6 weapons, and you have exactly these 3 things maxed out at minute 10, you know, you could easily win the run. I'm like, yeah, but these are like always good on pretty much everything, right? I don't know if there's going to be a world where I'm not going to want spinach and book, right? They're just both so good. Anyway, now I'm just rambling. Guys, see you next time. Purplatypus is Purplatypus. Next time is going to be the characters. And honestly, this one, I don't even know how I'm going to rate the characters. I have to think about it more. Anyway, see ya in that video. Peace.